Now, what if the true path in life is as simple as sorting good from evil? Maybe heresy is the path that leads us to understanding. Anyway, purveyor of gnosis and lover of all things heresy, Miguel Connor is here now.
Welcome to the Three Beards podcast. My name is Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I'm afraid that is quite I need you.
Then live to send the innocent to their death? Is this justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
All right, welcome to the show, everybody. We are back, and at this time, we have our guest, Miguel Connor. You can find him at thegodabovegod.com is his website. He also has a fantastic show, Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio. That's it. Go there. That's a weekly podcast, if I'm not mistaken, sir. Is that correct?
Correct.
And there's a massive list here. We'll go through it super quick, but you can find him on Twitter, Instagram. I don't know if you're on TikTok or not, but I didn't check that out. You can find him at on YouTube. You have two YouTube channels, either Miguel Connor or Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio. You can find him on Instagram at either at Catholic and then SUFI or Aeon Byte, or you can find him at Aeon Byte on Twitter. So I don't think I missed anything, did I? I hope not.
No, I think you've got it all.
All right, the God Above God, the God Above God, .com is the most important one because that's his actual main site where you can get merchandise, you can get all the stuff to support the man. So, yeah, we got you from Mark Eddy. He mentioned your name, and I looked into you. And for everybody we've really had a couple of shows where we've talked about Gnosticism and kind of touched on the subject, and he pitched me to you talking about to where we could really dive deep into the subject. And then listening to you, I don't know if we could have found a much better one to help us out with this. So, yeah. What got you, first off, just down this path? I mean, was there an aha moment? I mean, I know most people, it's like for me, we've talked about it in a couple shows. I had several moments like in church where the pastor and stuff hated my questions because it was one of those where I'm like, as soon as they say it, I'm like, wait a minute. That doesn't really work. And then your shows, you've talked about it. Like I said, I'll let you kind of go from there, but everything, it just starts fitting in. It's perfect. So.
Yeah, I know the questions. Why does the God of the Old Testament seem like a different guy from the God of the New Testament? And other questions that seem when you start asking about religion and Adam and Eve, and well, doesn't the serpent seem like the good guy in the story? But these are obviously questions that really brought forth the Gnostics or that they address. But as for me, I've always been a seeker. And I was raised Catholic, no problems with no beyond whatever the Catholic Church has done, but theologically and for seekers there, no problems. And so I tried many religious clothings, you name it, I did it or study it throughout my years, but there was never an aha moment. It was more of a slow burn into really embracing Gnostic philosophy. probably because it really answered the questions I was looking for about the nature of suffering, the nature of evil. Sometimes for me, and this is just for me, I thought most religions like to play the idea that everything's going to be fine and there's some order and this world is not so bad and evil is not, doesn't really exist. But with Gnosticism, it really they drew some hard lines in the sand that basically satisfied me and also gave me that sense of urgency. They were the ancient Gnostics were very punk rockers. They were not going to compromise on their rebellion against the world, against heaven, against institutions, and that kind of fuel is something I enjoy even as an aesthetic. It keeps me on my toes about how we live in a simulation and all the power, what does the Gospel of Mark say? When Satan takes Jesus out and shows him the world, and Satan goes, all the kingdoms of man belong to me. That kind of vibe that the Gnostics really embrace, and they weren't going to let it go, really satisfied me. And their idea, their mysticism also really spoke to me because it was very ecstatic. It was very shamanistic. It was it harkened to a primordial time before churches and temples in the Mediterranean with the Hebrews and the Sumerians, where you could actually have an experiential relationship with higher forces or higher forms of consciousness. So in a nutshell, that's what Gnosticism really satisfying. And of course, going back to Christianity, it sort of showed me what the Bible was really all about. I always had a sense that individuals like Mary Magdalene and the Apostle Thomas had been kind of marginalized, or even Judas in the Gospels. And again, was there more to the Garden of Eden than what we've been taught? And the Gnostics certainly broke that down and showed a very different and wider Christianity, and unveiled those ancient Christian times and even Jewish times, that there was a lot more going on than what we've been told with the official propaganda.
Yeah, there was one, like for me, you brought it up in there in the beginning when we got to that part, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. One of the things I always asked, whether it was pastor or even when I did a year in Bible college, I went up there just right out of high school to play basketball, I'd ask him these questions. Now, if you have something, if I was to take right now and put it in any of you, everybody watching, everybody's house, if I brought in, let's just scale it down. I brought in this bush of knowledge that, if you sample up this, you're going to know everything. And I set it in your house and I tell you, do not touch this. Do not eat anything off this. Leave it alone. How many of you are going to listen to me? We got one, but I would you think about it. It's like, and I would ask him this. It's like, if you didn't want this, why are you setting up what is a fallible creature for failure? This is like setting up your toddler saying, I don't want you to eat anything sweet before dinner. Don't touch this cupcake. And then walking away. And then all of a sudden being mad that they ate the cupcake. It's like, what did you think was going to happen? You put the cupcake in front of them. And you don't even
have the knowledge of good and evil, right and wrong before it. It's like you kind of need that. It's sort of a paradoxical trap they got caught themselves in, according to the standard narrative.
And you said it too, right in the beginning. And that was the other question I've always thrown. And that's why I really was kind of drawn to a lot of your shows about that, is the God of the Old Testament and the New Testament. I've said to the guys, to me, it's always been, why did God stop caring? He was involved in the day-to-day things, lightning bolts, destroying cities, killing people, just slaughtering things at will. And then all of a sudden it was just like, he's like, you know what, Jesus, could you just go do it? I'm tired. Was God, did he wear himself out? I mean, that was always the questions as soon as you ask a pastor or a minister that, they just like, you just see them lock up. It's like reboot, like they're trying to figure out how to back out of this question.
Yeah, that's definitely the truth. It's almost like there was a personality change, and there seems to be a personality change from what the father of Jesus, and that's what the Gnostics contended. Not just the Gnostics, there were other early Christians that challenged this. They, like Marcion in the 2nd century, said there's no way the father of Jesus is the God of the Old Testament. there had to be somebody else, or things got overwritten or something in the Old Testament. But when you start reading the Bible, you really start seeing not only a cover up, but you start seeing a cover up that a lot of the Bible is very Gnostic. For example, Paul is obviously kind of controversial, but if you take away the pseudo Pauls like Timothy and Titus, and you stick to his letters, and this is something that Greek Orthodox David Bentley Hart has promoted. He's a believer, a Greek Orthodox believer, but he's also a really good scholar. And he says, when you look at Paul, the whole message of Paul is this being, this cosmic being, Jesus, coming down and defeating these other beings called the archons. And in Gnosticism, the archons are the bad guys. It's not the demons or Satan. Later on in medieval times, maybe, but the archons are the sort of rulers of this world, these fallen angels that have taken control. And Paul talks about this all the time. He's talking about the rulers of this age. The word ruler in Greek means archon. He talks about the god of this world, the powers and principalities. And it seems that there's these beings that have taken control over the earth, over the universe. And Jesus is this sort of mind of God that is here to awaken us to the truth of who we are. Same with the Gospel of John. The Gospel of John was first used by the Gnostics, and they were the first ones to write commentaries, because again, you have this in the beginning was the Word, the Logos, and this cosmic Jesus that comes down, and he seems to be completely in control of everything, and he doesn't seem remotely human. So you have these Gnostic hints all over the New Testament, which tells us that it was probably popular enough, but it had to be co-opted and sort of molded and changed around to show these truths. And as I was doing a lecture the other day, and the idea of the world being controlled by angels, which is what Paul says. I mean, even in one of the letters, he says that it was angels who gave the Torah to Moses. And we know what Paul felt about the law. He felt it was constraining humanity, and there was something better. But the idea of angels ruling the world was in the air. And we can go 400 years before to the book of Enoch and other apocryphal writings that talk about how these fallen angels, these alien beings, have come to earth and basically enslaved humanity. And that was in the air in early Christianity, but it kind of had to be written out to some people basically said, no, we got to make sure that we tell them that God is in control, and this world is perfect, and join our church and be part of our church, and you'll be saved. So something like that. I hope I'm not off topic. I'm just trying to give people a picture of what early Christianity and Judaism was. It's not what we've been taught. It's a lot cooler, more sword and sorcery and science fiction kind of.
Well, that's just it. We've talked about it before, but even like here, I was going to bring, because in some of your shows, you've even covered this thing. Why does this pivotal figure in this book, the Bible, why did it take so many years for them to write this stuff down? You would think somebody would be there, pen and paper, listen to me, quill, whatever, it's like, writing it down on parchment papyrus, sitting here every single word. Because I think you said, what is the odds that somebody 60 years down the road is going to remember word for word what somebody said? I mean, I have a hard time remembering what exactly I said to my son yesterday, let alone, if somebody asked me 3 years from now, hey, do you remember what he said? That was a pretty cool saying. No, I don't remember. I should have written it down.
No, that's a good point. I mean, we can say oral tradition has to count for something, but it is still kind of mysterious that the first commentary on Jesus is Paul. And obviously Paul was around in the alleged times when Jesus was crucified, but Paul is writing these letters that talk about this sort of, again, a cosmic Christ that's battling these archons in space. And it's and then later on, a generation later, you're right, that's when we start getting Mark, Matthew, they start writing these ideas of a historical Jesus towards, 70 AD or something like that. So it's very curious and downright suspicious, if you ask me.
I got a question. Hopefully this is not too off topic. Where does the Freemasonry come into this at, as far as your studies?
Well, I know, I would say Freemasonry is definitely Age of Enlightenment secret society. I would say so. I mean, obviously people in ancient times, I mean, it's curious because in the gospel, I think of Luke and Mark, somebody says, who's Jesus? He's the carpenter's son. Now, the thing is, the word carpenter in Greek is actually tekton. Tekton could mean a mason. So even in ancient times, somebody like masons and traveling masons had a lot of power because they were in demand. They were running around kingdoms, gathering knowledge and everything else. But I think the Freemasons, as we know them, probably the Age of Enlightenment. And it was, again, just a lot of people running around with knowledge and eventually coming together. I don't, as far as I know, again, it's not my field of study, even in the more wild theories out there.
Now, you had in Magic and Christianity, the show you did with Robert Connor. It was kind of, Caroline just put up, she asked a question. It's like, how about your own personal Jesus? And it made me think of a quote that you got from him, that magic is the religion for the individual and religion is the magic for the masses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be it. It's who sanctioned it and who you had to pay. And the Romans were no better than other institutions. They wanted magic put together and control and tax and all that. That's why one thing, when you, again, bringing up the research of Robert Connor and others, Christians and Jews were some of the better magicians in ancient times because they lived on the fringes of Roman culture. And so they had the ability to work a lot of their own magic. That's why you have a ton of what they call it, magical papyri, with all these invocations to different gods, both from and summoning of angels, both from the Jews and Christians. So it was definitely up in the air, but it always comes down to who's going to control your spiritual life. Is it going to be an institution? Or are you going to be allowed to go on your own? And that's been the great conflict for thousands of years, it seems.
I apologize, I can't remember what show you said it in, but it's kind of one of those things.
Robert Connor, yeah, it's from his book.
But
yeah.
Well, you also called us, you said in words, pretty much the best way to put it is, all of us are pretty much undocumented deities. I was cracked up. It's like, we're all God's deities ourselves, so we're just undocumented deities. We don't have papers.
Yeah, well, it's sort of a joke because the Gnostics themselves talked about this alien God. They thought there was, the God of the Old Testament or these angels ruling. They saw the God of the Old Testament as another angel that was ruling this planet, like Agent Smith and the architect of the Matrix, and they were botching things up. They thought there was an alien God that was beyond, and this being was just pure information. And this information could wake us up to our true origin. So kind of in tongue-in-cheek, or just to be politically incorrect, I started calling him the undocumented deity. And it's not that far-fetched because as you're kind of alluding to, the Gnostics always use the terms alien and stranger, not just for Jesus, but for us, that we don't belong in this world. Like Neo says in the Matrix, there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is. It's like a splinter in your mind driving you mad. And that right there is sort of the Gnostic stance about where we are today in this material world.
It really is. For anybody I think a lot of people have grown up in some, major, religious type thing, but it's one of those, it's that type of thing. It's just that annoying thing that this doesn't seem right. Something's not correct here. And I have a hard time just going, all right, I guess I'll just accept it and just pretend, because it just bothers you. You have these things, it's just these annoying, like the little passages, like you brought up a little earlier about the devil, Satan takes Jesus out to the desert and says, this is the kingdom. Well, in the same book, it says that God already knows the end, that they win. All of this is there. I go, and I'll use my son again. This is like him coming to me and saying, Dad, if you let me do this, this, and this, if you just say that I'm in charge, I will let you have this entire house. It already belongs to me. I go, you have nothing to. I go, why am I going to listen to you?
He would do that too.
Yeah, and the Gnostics would say it's that feeling we all have, and like you said, we sort of push it down. I'll make the best of it. There must be a plan. The Gnostics didn't play around. I think one of your commenters said it's humans, and I said, no, this world is built like shit. This is a glitch in the I mean, we live in a world where who created a world, whether it's evolution or God, where we all, to survive, we need to eat and depend on the suffering of other life forms, this dog eat dog world, and we grow old and we have disease. I mean, a virus. I mean, a virus isn't even a life form. What's the purpose of a virus? It's completely illogical, the Gnostics would say, why we are cast in the world with so much temporality, suffering, and we don't even have to get to the human race. That's another. The human race makes no sense. I mean, this is a world where, I don't know, the Big Bang Theory is a hit, and all this other illogical stuff where, you know, Taylor Swift is famous. It just doesn't make sense. So
no, it's how sad is it when you have all this information, just like you said, you have all this stuff that you at your fingertips, you know, this knowledge that you can, you know, things that people could actually do. And what do? We spend most of the time watching some funny video on TikTok, YouTube, laughing. And next thing you know, 3 hours have gone by. And there's so much things that you could have done. You could have tackled, read a book, but no, watching that guy wipe out on a skateboard and hitting his head, you know, on this railing we're like, oh, that was good. Well, I can't get that time back.
It's easier.
Yeah,
I mean, I think a scholar said, how do you summarize Gnosticism in one sentence? Is the story of how God went crazy and became us. So that's pretty much a good nutshell when you read the Gnostic myths. Is God has one little glitch or one little breakdown and then just falls into multiplicity, and then somehow through the shadows these other beings come up and we worship them as God, and we are the ones who are really God.
Yeah, so, you know, and like Gnosis, I know that's the thing. I mean, what do you call yourself, you know, I don't know how you refer to yourself in this way in like the study of Gnosis. I mean, because you basically embrace this, you know, thing. I mean, this is, I mean, for lack of better terms, this has become in a way, you know, the mantra, your way you live your life, not really a religion, because that would kind of go against the whole thing. I mean, that would defeat the whole purpose. You know, it'd be like us having this conversation and then starting beardoism.
You know, I embrace it as an aesthetic, a philosophy. Again, there's I don't really call myself ever a Gnostic. I just call myself a heretic. And even in ancient times, the word heresy in the 1st, 2nd century, even as the church fathers call it, it means a choice outside the norm. That's what it meant. It wasn't as derogatory as it was today, and it could also mean a specialty too. Surgeons, like in Judaism, were called the heresy of surgeons, or so. That's what I call myself, because I would hope to that I'm always thinking outside the norm, because this entire culture, this entire universe is built to hypnotize me, I feel, and program me and make sure I forget my origins and make sure I try to act like everybody else and take the medicine or the instructions of some pack animal in the human race. And I'm like, no, I don't want to forget. I know there's something better about me, and I know I have a potential out there, but it seems like the entire universe is there to make me forget, make me take the blue pill.
Well, kind of like that you just said, you know, because if anybody, when you go to his channel, Miguel Connor or Aeon by Gnostic Radio, your intros are awesome. I mean, it range anywhere from like 10 to 20 minutes, and they're just, I love the clips. I haven't caught one yet. Have you used They Live yet?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
I went through a period where I was using a whole bunch of especially that part with the guys on the radio
Yep.
And you know what I mean? They're trying to listen. The resistance is trying to give the truth about the aliens. I use that a lot. And once in a while, I use the famous one where Roddy goes, you know, I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
I almost use that to introduce you. It's like, he's here to kick religion's ass and chew bubblegum, and he's all out of bubblegum.
Yeah, that's a very Gnostic movie. John Carpenter hit it.
Yeah, it's one of the. If nobody see it, you gotta watch it. It's Gnosis, you know, the Gnostic thing in a nutshell. I mean, everybody is just like, we've all grown up, we've all listened, you know, to these ways, and then when you have these little things start peeling back, you realize it's not as complicated as it's made out to be. There's not all these steps. I mean, everybody thinks you have to follow all these things to get enlightenment, to get stuff. I've said from the biggest thing, it's like, I don't need to be sitting in a church. I don't need to be sitting in some building to have a relationship. Whatever you think the creator is. You think the creator is a spaghetti monster in space, a giant slug that's hitchhiking on a comet. I don't care what, you know, God, I don't care what it is. I don't have to be with a group of 75,000 people worshiping some mega church pastor who's basically teaching themselves, you know, they are the ones treating themselves like deities. And that drives me crazy. I bet we could have a whole show just on the mega church pastors and the stuff that they do.
Oh my God.
No, we would get banned real quick. Shit, we'd be banned.
Oh, the best one is those guys on the plane.
Oh,
saying why God gave them a private jet is because, can you imagine speaking to the Lord in a tube full of demons? That's why we got to have this Gulfstream jet. Right at that moment, I'm picturing some little old lady who's like, well, I need this medicine, or I can give it to these guys so they can not be in a tube full of demons. You know, and that's the choice they made. And I'm just like, this has got to stop. This has got to stop.
Harold had a question for you. You should say, what's your view on reincarnation?
I'm pretty agnostic on it. I haven't really settled on anything. I think I'm pretty sure I have come from somewhere, and my consciousness will go somewhere after this. But I don't know if will I be manifest as another human being or a dog or I don't know. Hopefully a woman's bicycle seat, that would be nice. But something like that would be fun. But I am not sure what.
Yeah, muted. Damn it.
I don't think the science even works out on that.
Soundbite.
But I'm agnostic of the mechanics of reincarnation. So I have not had any, you might say, past life recalls or remembrances. I have friends and people I know who are very much into that, but I myself haven't. There have been no downloads from the upper worlds on this for me, but I know things continue.
Yeah,
and most Gnostics did believe in some form of reincarnation, even if they were, followers of Jesus or whatever.
I can't. I mean, the Gnostics. I mean, if everybody really wants to think, I mean, everybody owes, like the Essenes, they owe them a massive gratitude, because they preserved, not even if you don't take the religious side of it, historical side, these documents that they saved from the purge when everything was just being destroyed. And, they wrote, and then, because we can get into at some other time too, we could get into where, the crafting of the Bible, the narrative that was created, because you've talked about it in your before too. So the book of James, the book of Mary Magdalene, you have the book of Enoch, all these ones that if they included, this entire story is completely different.
Yeah,
everything has
the
changed.
Book of Enoch was accepted, and some early church fathers did want the Book of Enoch included because it was widely known. I mean, the Book of Enoch is quoted in the Epistle of Jude in the Bible. Jesus actually quotes the Book of Enoch, but again, it had to be then sort of forgotten and pushed aside. But there were many Gospels. And like you said, the Gospel of Mary, Gospel of Judas, Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Philip, and these were quoted by the church fathers, but eventually they were slowly yeah, like you said, suppressed. And luckily in 1945, same year that they dropped the atomic bomb, they found the Nag Hammadi library in Upper Egypt, and that had a treasure trove of all these Gnostic gospels that give us a different view of early Christianity and spirituality and so forth. And of course, 2 years later, 47, you've got the Dead Sea Scrolls that show us there was this sort of a apocalyptic light and darkness spiritual Judaism that was waiting for this eternal battle to come and the spiritual Messiah to come down and save the world. So fascinating discoveries that have changed a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, one of the things maybe you might be able to help this is it's I'm not aware of anything, but like in a secular, literature, notations, there isn't a whole lot written down about the whole account of Jesus in the whole time during Jerusalem, even with the Romans, which is to me that's always been a question I've asked too. It's like, where is the non-Christian, recordings of these events? Because if everything that's in the Bible happened, there's going to be some Roman scholar that's writing this stuff down. A storm came out of nowhere, after right as Jesus dies, this guy who's been dead for 3 days suddenly walks out of the tomb. I mean, all the stuff you'd think would be written somewhere. Not to
And
mention,
don't forget, in Matthew, it says the saints came out of their graves. There's nothing about a zombie invasion in Jerusalem, The Walking Dead or something like that. So
yeah, I think that would.
yeah.
I think that Grandpa just suddenly comes knocking on the door, decomposed. You'd think that would become, that would be news. But yeah, it's you get into that thing like your episode I was referred to a few times, Magic and Christianity. I mean, how many things do you have to, when some religion they say, oh, this is against Bible. I mean, we just now in the last couple minutes we've talked about necromancy. We've talked about all these miracles, turn water into wine. I mean, all these things are magical acts. These aren't, and people are just like, well, that's okay, but somebody putting together some herbs and coming up with a spell is that's, you're going to hell.
No, I mean, even as Robert Connor has demonstrated in his book Magic and Christianity, he draws from other scholars too, like Morton Smith. When you look at how Jesus acts, he definitely fits under the trope of an ancient magician. I mean, things like spitting on people's eyes and grabbing the mud, raising the dead, how he talks to God before certain things are, or even the idea of repenting because it was thought that your soul might be full of demons or just the guilt itself was killing you. So repenting. So he puts blow by blow, defeating Satan, spirits, demons, and Jesus does fall into the trope of an ancient magician. So I would not be surprised if that was the case.
Yeah, and for everybody here, I forgot to plug it in the beginning. But you have a couple of books, Voices of Gnosticism and Other Voices of Gnosticism. You have those two books up. You can get those, I think, Kindle version 2 and paperback. Yeah, so pick those up, especially if you want, because some of these ones, like some of these things we've talked about, like some of your show, and please, everybody has got to go subscribe to and listen to some of these shows. They're fantastic. Like I said, especially the first 10 to 20 minutes of every episode, I absolutely love. It's one of those. It's actually a lot of laughs. I do love the way you do those.
Yeah, it's a dark, offensive humor, but again, we kind of have to laugh at the absurdity of this world, and I believe you have to sometimes shock people and shake people so they'll get it. That's why it's so nice. That's the idea of comedians. Somebody like Richard Pryor was far more influential in waking me up to the reality of the world than any politician or you name, or some sort of shocking movie that you go, whoa, this is so yeah, I do tend to use dark humor, and that's what separates too with the Gnostics, is that they used a lot of parody and a lot of edgy humor even in those ancient times. It is interesting if you read any of the Gnostic Gospels, versus the New Testament, you see one thing is that Jesus does not laugh in the Bible once. And I don't think that's an accident. I think they wanted this very serious cat. All the stories of Jesus laughing and joking with the guys and comforting people and with smiles, that you find that outside in the Gnostic Gospels. So got to take it easy.
Well, I have a hard time, believing that somebody who's willing to go in the den of thieves and, the whorehouses and stuff, to talk to those people, wasn't laughing at jokes. Walking around with a serious manner. I mean, it's kind of like the, in the way the jokes too. It's, I can't remember which show. I apologize. Can't give it credit to which show that you said this, but that some Christians are so far in their closet that they're touching their Christmas presents.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the more you, like you said at the beginning of the show, the more you suppress something, the more it's going to come out, or people are going to be curious. So it is unfortunate because, I mean, we think we live in these enlightened times, but as we talked in the interview with Robert, even in the 60s, they were giving, here in the United States, they were giving gay people lobotomies because it was still thought to be some sort of disease. So we haven't gotten, and let's not even get into, 60s and the Jim Crow laws. I mean, we haven't moved that much in our enlightenment or being an equal civilization. We're far from it. So.
Yeah, I know we're making steps, but like I said, it's still got a ways to go to get there. And that was, for me, it's just, it was like one of the things, like Gnosis to be, a lot of people, they hear Gnostic, the first thing is like anti-Bible. And I'm like, Gnosis itself, I mean, the absolute dictionary definition of it is knowledge of spiritual mysteries. Mm-hmm. I mean, who in here, I mean, like anybody listening, who doesn't want to, look into mysteries, research these things? I mean, I've always gone through this, I believe that, if you believe in God, I believe that he would rather open, honest questioning than blindfolded fear and faith. Because what is the point? I mean, what is the point of, you can take whatever book I've got behind me. What is the point of reading these things? What is the point of studying? What's the point of this if all I have to do is bend the knee and to say, it's like, then what's the purpose of giving me this? I mean, that's goes back to the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's like, why have all these things? Why give people the gift of being able to remote view, being able to, sense, telepathy? I mean, you have all these gifts, being able to, reading tarot cards. I mean, you go down the list of all these gifts that people have, and then you're just like, yeah, no, that's all evil. I don't buy it.
No, got to control the divinity, and it comes down to faith or knowledge, as you said. And there are things we know that we have powers. We are made in the image of God. What does Jesus say in the gospel? Haven't ye all heard, ye are all gods? And this sort of information has been suppressed, at the very least, to keep us from reaching our potential and becoming just obedient sheep that can hand over dollars and energy and everything else to some institution or another.
Yeah. I would go with it. I mean, that harkens back to your undocumented deities. It really just comes full circle with that. It's what would you say has been, I don't know, it's like discovery. I mean, in the last few years that you really feel like, because the saying is always like, pull those threads, keep pulling that thread. You're going to keep finding something. What has been kind of like that's propelled you? Like, I've discovered this and I'm really digging into this. Like, what might be the work for another book, might you say?
Yeah, I think recently, the idea, I mean, I always thought the human race was crazy and fragmented, but now I realize we all really are crazy and fragmented in the way that we are, as the Bible says, we are legion. I was watching this documentary by Adam Curtis, I Can't Get You Out of My Head. And he was talking about the research. There was a lady who she had what do you call that? What's that disease where you shake?
Parkinson's?
Yeah.
No. Where you get seizures. Julius Caesar had it.
Okay. I know. I don't know the name of it, but I know which one you're talking about.
Epilepsy.
That's what I was thinking. Cerebral palsy. It's not at all.
Yeah, she had really bad epilepsy, and they came with an idea. This is in I think the late 70s, 80s, where if they cut half of her brain, the connection of her brain, it would heal her epilepsy, and they did. And but what happened is suddenly she would go to pick clothes, and she would pick a dress, and without her consent, she would pick another dress, and sometimes 3 dresses. And she realized through her day that that her personality had become completely fragmented. In other words, she discovered there were many of hers inside of her, and they all had different tastes. And the doctor who did the experiment said, I think our egos are just this illusion, a story we tell ourselves, but the truth is that we are all legion. And then as I started reading the works of Carl Jung and others, I realized, my God, we are all schizophrenic. We are all a multiplicity of these personalities that have told each other a lie. And we're sort of going through the world, again, living this lie in this story. And to me, that's fascinating, because even Carl Jung always talked about something called individuation, that we have to integrate everything within us, the light, the dark, the shadow, all the fragments, personality fragments that we are. We must integrate them to be complete, to be whole. And to me, that's a fascinating idea. And just working on that has really helped me a lot on my journey of trying to find some sort of peace and more of a whole consciousness and all that. So it's something I'm exploring a lot. And it really does play with the Gnostic ideas, because the Gnostics always, like the Hermetics said, we are this image of many gods or archons inside of us, but we also are all these energies, as above, so below. We are in the universe is in us. So we have to kind of discover this universe within us and integrate it all together.
Yeah, I'm just, as you're describing that, I'm just thinking that sounds like a book that you need to write, that you need to work on, because that's something that deep down, that could take, that's we're talking book possibly like that thick, to really break that down. Because as you're saying, isn't that the truth though? If you really think about it, the duality of every, even like almost like a multiverse thing, there's all those decisions. You're walking down the street, somebody bumps into you. You could stab them with a pin. You could just say, hey, buddy, no problem. There's so many different ways that you can, but there's those portions in you say, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. You've made all these choices, but deep down, there's a part of you that if you had let go, you would, a whole different version of you, almost like it's a sequel to, I think it was the sequel to Glass. That one where they had where you had the multiple personalities. The one guy, I think he had 16, that he would just flip back and forth between these things. And that's what I'm thinking when you were describing that, is just how many different people potentially have this ability to, if something like that happens, you could completely change your personality. Because when you
or recall your ancestors, how much knowledge is in our DNA of our ancestors. And the idea of multiple personalities, you read the studies, it is fascinating, because you can have somebody with different personalities, and one personality will be allergic to peanuts, and the next one that will shift will have no allergic reactions to peanuts. So at the very least, it shows the power of our mind, the power of how we can convince ourselves to the point we can change our bodies. So and you wonder, these are people who are diagnosed with multiple personalities, but then you start looking at yourself and you realize, I might have multiple personalities. Who forgot where I put down my phone when it was obvious when I put my phone? Or how come when I get in the car, my personality completely changes, like I've been possessed by some other person, and everybody sucks and I'm in a hurry, me. And as soon as I get out of my car, I'm like, who was that guy? Who is that idiot
Yeah.
on the drive? You know, and I sort of just sweep it. Well, maybe I was just in a bad mood, or something triggers me, and I just change my personality, get in an argument with my wife or somebody in my family, and I'm like a passenger in my own head. Like, why am I screaming? This is not me. This is not the kind of cool, friendly Miguel that you see. So this is something I've been exploring, and it'd be nice to see that, yeah, we're all schizophrenic. We all have multiple personalities, but that's the good news, because it's also shows us the potential we have over our bodies, over our minds, how much potential we have to increase our minds and what we know, and how we can affect our bodies and reality itself.
Now, you mentioned just a little bit ago, you mentioned the past thing too while you were talking about that. Do you think that might have something to do with, you've seen some of those rare cases where somebody hits their head or they wake up and suddenly they speak fluent German and they've never spoken it before, or fluent Spanish? Is that what you think maybe deep down you're one of those past, like that's been passed in your DNA, and that's what you're tapping into, like these multiple personalities? I've now become that, we'll just use your name. I've now become who I was in the past, Miguel from Spain, from someplace like that, and now I'm speaking fluent Spanish because that's what I know.
Yeah, some ancestor recall. Could be reincarnation, or could be accessing what our ancestors do. I mean, we do. I believe we do carry the sins of our ancestors and the promise of our ancestors. That's why so many cultures around the world feel that we have to honor our ancestors, because in a way we are carrying them. And as long as we're alive and we don't forget them, we have access to them.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool. I said it was one of those. I'm actually sitting here secretly while you've been talking. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. He's got to write this book. He's going to write this book.
Well, it's already. I really can't write it because, again, you start reading the stuff of Carl Jung and other scientists. So it's maybe one day in the future, but right now there's so much good work on it from so many different researchers.
Yeah, that is one. I mean, I barely was able to scratch the surface. Like I said, I was new to it. I mean, I think I was able to watch, maybe in the last couple of weeks, we've watched about 15 or so of the shows that you've done. And it's, that's just that recurring theme of the whole thing, and where it's just stop going based off what you've been told to do and just start asking questions. Don't be afraid to ask that question. I mean, it's the one that we always, and I apologize, apologize to my son, tonight too, because I try to do it stuff. It's like, stop beating the why question out of your kids. I mean, all of us do it. It's just, as a parent, you get frustrated. Well, why? Because I said so. Just do it. When you realize you're crushing that thing that we really want to challenge, question it. If it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you're right. We've been programmed to crush our children's souls, just as our parents crushed our souls, so we would be part of the herd. But you're right. That's what is the temple at Delphi says. Know thyself. That's what Socrates said. And to know thyself is to know God, and to know the world is to know God. So you're right. And I'm the same way with our children. It doesn't matter how uncomfortable. I let them ask the questions and explore the world. And
that's, and I've really been trying to work on that, because it's I feel bad, because there's all these ones where it's like, you think, what have I crushed? What potential did I cause him to repress? And like, I don't want to do that because I don't want to get in trouble. And I feel bad.
In 20 years, he's going to be like, this relationship didn't work because my dad 20 years before called me this, unfortunately.
Well, Dad just gave me another one. I had another personality I have to repress.
Yeah. I mean, children are, when you're abused or you get thrown into this horrible prison camp called school, children disassociate. They create parallel personalities to cope. And these personalities often, unfortunately, sell out so they can fit in. So, as kids, we're already creating all these different personalities to survive.
I'm going to have to do some soul searching after this.
Homeschool your kids. Homeschool your kids. That's my advice.
Yeah, I was homeschooled for 5 years. And as I've told people, I recommend, I recommend, especially trying it because it's amazing. But honestly, you have to have the temperament for it, because if you get frustrated, like just doing homework with your kid, imagine doing that full time.
Yeah. Well, you could. I know my youth pastor, his kids went to homeschool, but it was like a homeschool community, I guess you could say, where it was like they had a homeschool teacher of like 5 or 6 kids. So technically it's homeschool, but they had someone else do it for them. So
yeah. So how long have you guys homeschooled your kids the whole time, or has it just been partial?
No, in this marriage, my second marriage, I have 3 kids the whole time. And because we have many kids, they really know how to learn from each other. There's a myth that you need to be with kids of your own age, but kids always calibrate their personality and needs to younger, older kids. They're always learning from younger, older kids, and they really do better. I mean, unfortunately, as who was it? Michael Malice said, I think most people will experience their first violence and abuse at school. And sometimes it's their only form of violence that they'll experience in their life. So it's unfortunate.
I mean, especially when you have multiple children, like I have 3. My oldest one took a little bit to learn how to walk, talk, all this kind of stuff. My daughter, who's the youngest one, she's walking, trying to talk, and she's just turned 2. And she's doing everything just like my boys are. It's like they learn from other people, different age groups. I always like different age groups,
Yeah, and when they're ready, kids are ready for different things at different times. You can't have a one-size-fit-all, which is what's horrible about schools. Some kids are ready to learn math at a certain age or ride a bicycle at a certain age, and it's up to their souls. It's up to them when to do it.
Yeah, like it's all just, one way. Mm-hmm. I wish it could become, I know it's hard because of the public school system, but like just test them and send them. If they're better here, stick them over here. This kid's here, stick them over here. But it's just, I guess, because the public school system can't afford it. They're lazy. I don't know what it is, but it's ruining them.
Yeah, or a Montessori or Waldorf school would probably be good if you have to. If you need to work, at least try to do that.
Well, it's funny. So I was just going to ask if you thought like that would work, because there's one thing. It's one. Like my son, he's really smart, but it's like you can just tell there's something like he doesn't like. And I mean, it's, most kids, who likes homework, who likes doing the stuff, but there's just something, it's like this part where it's like he just can't get himself to focus on it. And he wants, and that's been the frustrating thing. It's like, because I know he's smart, I want him to do it. It's like, and then that's where a lot of times it ends up resulting in me walking away.
Yeah. He's not ready, and
I've got to breathe.
To be ready. Yeah, it's hard. It's very hard. One kid, she learned to ride the bike after 2 lessons, and another kid, I've been months trying. He's just not ready to learn to ride the bike, and I'm just like, when you're ready, you're ready. It's within you.
I mean, isn't this kind of a microcosm of Gnosis anyway, where it's like everybody, you have your own path. There's not this one size fits all. And that's kind of, unfortunately, that's what we've all been trained growing up, that even in like education, everybody must fit this box. Everybody must fit these pegs. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. And it's like, that's not it at all. I mean, how many people, you don't want to say that too loud, but there's many people who dropped out of school that have been successful. I don't want to say it too loud. I don't want anybody to hear that.
God.
Yeah, we're all a unique miracle, a one-time happening in time and space that will never happen before. So we might as well embrace our uniqueness, find out what our true will is, to say in Thelema, or what our destiny, because I believe God or the divine has some great destiny for us to help the world and help those around us. It's a matter of finding it. So it's not, I don't believe it's all about me. It's about how I can bring more light into the world, and how am I going to do it. It may not be what my ego wants, because, it'd be easier to do other things, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, that's true. It's just, I wish there was, I really wish there was a way to do, to do that. I mean, to, make it easy for people. Like there's some, I don't want to say rudiment test. I mean, because that's the whole point. Is like tests don't work, and for everybody, but figure out for people what's the best steps, because I know it's frustrating. I mean, it's just like anything. Everybody wants answers, but there's not really a good way. I mean, it's like we're all searching for the same thing. Where do we go after this? What do we do here? What's the best fit? And unfortunately, society is not set up around the free thinkers, the ones that want to chart their own course, do what feels right, because you don't fit in. It's hard to fit into that mold. And that's kind of where I said I was really drawn to your work and stuff like that, is because it's that thing. It's constantly question the narrative, chart your own course, and you're going to find that you're going to be in so much better of a place when you do. Yeah, there's going to be people that don't like it. There's going to be people that are against it flat out, because you're threatening the way of life, the narrative. And I think you do that very admirably.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm just another guy. That's my expression, the podcast and the introductions and some of my writings. But I do what I can, and hopefully it's the right role to help others wake up, or at least help others find, go ask their own questions and find their own paths. I mean, as I say in the show, I hope to be an endless possibility for everything. But people have to find their own mystery, their own journey in life. Now,
what's on your, I'm looking up right here, because Amazon, you go to Amazon.com and get all your books. Yeah. Now, do you have any more than just, it looks like you got 4 here that are works of, looks like works of like fiction.
Yeah, I've got the 2 books, Voices of Gnosticism and Other Voices of Gnosticism, which is, these are transcripts from some of my interviews, and I write some commentary, some of the leading minds in Gnosticism, people that I really enjoy. And so those, if you want to learn about Gnosticism, ancient and throughout history, from figures who were influenced by Gnosticism like Philip K. Dick or William Blake and many others, check those books out. But I also wrote a few fiction, one sort of The Executioner's Daughter, which is kind of a fantasy novel, and then I have 2 sort of Gnostics fiction, they're vampire fiction, Stargazer and Heretic. So
and then you have, is it The Queen of Darkness? Is that another one?
Well, Queen of Darkness was what was originally published by Warner Books, and then they gave me the rights back, and I just renamed it Stargazer and published it myself.
Oh, okay. So that's basis. So I was looking on here and I saw the 2. So okay, so that's, well, congratulations on getting the rights back. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
that's always nice when you get the rights back to your own work. Yeah, that's going on. So everybody said definitely. Now, are you on most podcast platforms? I mean, to where,
yeah,
no
pretty
matter
much.
What,
yeah. Whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Audible, iHeartRadio, Spotify, you'll find it. So just put an A on by Gnostic Radio, and I'll pop up in your app or somewhere where you can get access to it.
AEONBYTE and just Gnostic Radio. Mm-hmm. And definitely subscribe, listen to that, because that's fantastic work. And then your site, like I said, you go there, and I'm going to share it here so people can see here on screen. But you go to this, you go to the site here and just bring it in. It takes you right here to, listen to the latest episode. So you're able to go right there, listen away, and you go down, and it gives you things, helping out. Go to the merch store, Patreon, subscribe, help him out there, because that's what funds and helps him battle this establishment. You got to help him out there. So that's, but Miguel, man, I really want to appreciate you coming on, sir.
Oh, really enjoyed it, and I hope I was of some service, and your audience could handle my offensive jokes.
This is the perfect audience for that.
Yes, this there was no issues there whatsoever. Okay. No, we definitely, like I said, we'll have you back on a later time too, to talk about this. Because
we still have a lot to cover. There's so much to cover. But.
Yeah, that's one. This is kind of more of like get to know you, just kind of an overview of your things. I mean, and I wrote down one. I had to, for everybody. It's just maybe this is a good sign off one. It was another quote that you had on there for everybody. Write your own gospels, live your own myths.
Yeah, that's my tagline for the show. If not, somebody else is going to do that. You got to write your own Jesus story, from crucifixion, death, torture, and how you redeemed yourself, or even rewrite the Bible in a way that works better for you, because there are different stories. And myth, all the great stories are in the stars, they're in the old legends, and find out what works for you and who you relate to, and make your life a living myth, something that's going to be memorable, that people will write about, that reaches out into higher worlds of archetypes and symbols, and embrace that, to be the champion you were meant to be. So those are my taglines.
Yep. And I like that. Write your own gospels, live your own myths. I mean, that's one of those ones, you don't want to make it the typical, urban household thing where the live, laugh, love, type thing. But that's one of those ones where you actually put, you put it on there, it's motto to, because it's perfect to live by. Write your own gospels, live your own myths. Be your own story.
Mm-hmm.
Try to earn your papers. Don't be an undocumented deity. So, Miguel, thank you so much, sir. Everybody, Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio, download that. Go to YouTube. You can even listen there. We replay this on the same thing, so just do that, and that will be awesome. So, everybody, please, thank you again for coming on. Everybody, check him out. All right, everybody, this is brought to you by Nanny Cakes. Nancy on 407 on Facebook. Go to Nanny Cakes 407, or give her a phone call at 407-923-2898. And if you're in the Central Florida area, mention us. She's going to give you a discount on a wonderful cake order, which is an amazing deal, 15% off that cake order. So check us out on threebeardspodcast.com, patreon.com/threebeardspodcast. And while you're there, you can also look up Aeon Bytes, and so you can become a Patreon on both. He'll love you for it, and so will we, because we're looking to have a beardo, but nobody loves us. Yeah. It'll happen. It's going to. Yep. Check that out. We're on social media. This show is going to be re-aired on Patriot Radio. Download the Zeno app. We're broadcast courtesy of J&J Beard Company. Go to jjbeardco.com. Thank them for putting us on that there. Every social media, basically. We even have a dabble in TikTok. We're just poor quality videos. It's terrible. We got it.
I'm trying. Okay.
You're trying. We're doing something there.
Our funds are really slim.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so we're on everything else: Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Three Beards Vault and Three Beards Podcast on Instagram is everything. Same with Twitter. So everybody, thanks for watching. We will see you later. Good night.